Welcome to the Billionaire Mindset, your 30-day journey to thinking like a billionaire. Now you can just watch this video, or if you want to sign up for the entire series for free and get the bonus PDF companion calendar, check the link in the description below. Today is day 5, and we're going to learn the meditation and mindfulness habits of billionaires. Enjoy.
Usually before the sun comes up, I offer myself to something greater than myself. If it's for 1 minute, 20 seconds, or 10 minutes, I at least stop in that space in my house every morning. I have a little meditation space where I just go. I have beautiful spiritual readings there. I light my 3 candles there, daily word or something, and I express to this greater energy field than I, that I don't want to be alone as I move out into the world. For me, at this particular time in my life, I recognize that everything is about moving closer to that which is God. And without a full spiritual center, and I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about without understanding the fullness of from which you've come, you can't really fulfill your supreme moment of destiny. And I think everybody has a supreme moment of destiny. So what you've done and what you've been doing, and actually people have several supreme moments, some people do. So I think being connected to that which is greater than yourself, for me, at this particular time in my life, is the most important thing, and that's what I'm working on. One of the things I did in Next Chapter, I went to visit a town called TM Town, and it's in Fairfield, Iowa. Would you imagine that in Fairfield, Iowa, it's a town population about 9,500, a third of the town meditates. So there's a traffic jam in Fairfield, Iowa at 5:30 with mothers and doctors and dentists and lawyers and engineers and clerks and soccer moms all headed to the Dome in Fairfield, Iowa, people who look just like you and me, and they're all there meditating. And in order to prepare to doing that show, I brought the Transcendental Meditationists into Harpo Studios to teach me and my team how to meditate. So we started meditating. 7 of us, 7 led to 70, led to 270, led to now everybody in the company meditates. 9 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the afternoon, no matter what's going on, we stop. We meditate. And that way of being still with ourselves, coming back to the center and recognizing that something is more important than you, it's more important than the work you're doing, it's more important, brings a kind of energy and an intensity of energy, an intention that we've never had before. And you can't imagine what's happened in the company. People who used to have migraines don't. People are sleeping better. People have better relationships. People interact with other people better. It's been fantastic.
Meditation is the biggest gift that I can give anyone. And I would say more than anything, it is whatever reason for success I've had. Because it allows one, back to the 2 U's, I'll clarify. What I mean is that in your mind, we think, what do you want? And the reality is, when you look at the neuroscience and psychology, that there are different parts of your brain that want different things. And so, in the simplest sense, there is the logical part of your brain that you're conscious of, it's called the conscious, and you think you're being logical and you want to make those decisions. And then there's the subliminal, below the limbic system, part of the brain, which is the emotional, and it's not as conscious to you, but it has more of an influence on you than really the logical one. And so they're not aligned. And so when you're experiencing that pain, or let's say the ego, right, there were 2 main things. You got an ego barrier and a blind spot barrier. If you can get past your ego barrier and you get past your blind spot barrier, you can accomplish anything, because you'll also know that you don't have to do everything, you don't have to figure it out yourself. You can take in from other people the different ways to approach things in the best possible way. And so the realization that we all are really struggling with ourselves, and to think which is in control. Meditation helps to deal with the alignment of those two things. What happens with meditation, as you know, is it's just a simple exercise that allows you first to clear your head and then brings an equanimity to everything. It eliminates the stress, it eliminates the emotion.
And you do it how often? You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 44 years, but I do it, twice a day, probably a third of the time, once a day, probably a third of the time, and not at all.
For 20 minutes, twice a day.
Yeah.
So you spend 40 minutes a day as part of your...
Oh, it's such a great investment. I would say that more than any other factor having any effect on my success, it's been meditation. Because the equanimity and also the creativity, because it opens between literally the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, it opens the two sides of the brains and it allows a spontaneity, a creativity, an open-mindedness. And so it's good for not only the health, because you get stress is a terrible thing, but it also is very good in terms of the clarity, and you don't get the emotional hijacking, and it's great for creativity. So it's helped me a lot. It's the biggest gift I can give anyone. I do transcendental meditation. There are all sorts of different types of meditation that I think. It has changed my life. It has been so powerful, and it's probably the biggest gift that I can give anybody because it gives you, I'll describe it, I guess, briefly. It connects your conscious mind with your subconscious mind and gives you an equanimity and a creativity that you ordinarily wouldn't have. And the reason it does that, mechanistically the way it does it, is by having a mantra, which is a word that doesn't have a meaning, it's a sound, something like, popular one would be Om. So you repeat that with your breath, and that means that you get rid of your thoughts, because if you sit there and say, I'm going to try not to think, you can't do that. The thoughts just jump around. And so to get rid of your thoughts, you go to this mantra, you repeat it over and over again, and when you pay attention to that, you can't be thinking about something, and then eventually the mantra disappears, and you're in a subconscious state. And when you're in that subconscious state, you're neither conscious or unconscious. You're in your subconscious state. And that's where, so it's relaxing and it's great and it gives you that equanimity, but it also is where creativity comes from, because you don't muscle creativity. You don't say, I'm going to work there, get creative. It's more like relaxation. You take a hot shower and this great idea comes to you. So it bubbles up from your subconscious. And so it enhances creativity. And also I would say one of the best things that one can do is reconcile one's subconscious, emotional self with one's intellectual self. Because if you can get those things aligned, like if they work in both ways, you're going to make better decisions. So meditation has given me that kind of equanimity. So I look at things, things I might not want to happen, but I can approach them calmly and better. So it's a big deal. It's been a big deal for me. In 1968, the Beatles went to India to learn how to meditate. And then I heard quite a bit about it, and it was in the media. It was interesting, and then I tried, I learned how to meditate. And it was definitely life-changing. I would say that probably more than anything, it had a bigger effect on my life than practically anything because of how it works. And the way it works is it's basically open-mindedness. That what happens is normally you can't control your brain. If you were to sit down and say, I'm not going to think, it will be filled with stuff and it'll jump all over and you can't control it. So what happens is this is an exercise that creates open-mindedness because there's a word that doesn't make sense, which is called a mantra. So it's a sound that you repeat. And so while your brain is wanting to jump all over the place. By repeating this sound mentally, it takes your attention away from those thoughts. And then when you continue to repeat it, it goes away. And so there's nothing. And so you go into nothingness. Okay, now when you go into that nothingness, first of all, you've learned the ability to control your brain so that you can go there. You can put things away. You can approach them in a certain way. When you go into that open-mindedness, you're going into your subconscious. So you're not a state of conscious, so I'm not aware, but I'm not asleep. Asleep is, you hear a sound, you won't wake up. This is, if I hear the slightest sound, I'm attuned to it. So it's a state of subconsciousness. And there are different parts of our brain that have a very big influence on us. The amygdala is the part of the brain that has the fight or flight that produces anxiety. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain which we call for executive functioning, where it's the part that's reflective. It's the part that we are calm and we say, do we want to do that? Do we not want to do that? We put things in perspective. Those two parts of the brain fight with each other. In other words, the passion, I'm going to do that because it's exciting, but it may be harmful. The other part of the brain says, you don't want to do that. And so that whole emotional fight or flight part of the brain, during meditation, through brain imaging, they see that calms down and the prefrontal cortex lights up. So that open-mindedness creates where creativity comes from, because creativity is not coming from the working the brain in the I will work hard and think about it in that I will muscle it through. It comes from this relaxation. It's just like it's an opening up and, take a hot shower and don't be thinking of something, and some great idea comes through and you grab the great idea. So meditation is very much like that. It opens the mind, creates an openness, a freedom. It's in which that, I don't know whether we would say intuition or that creativity just kind of comes through, and it creates an equanimity that, in other words, you could step back and you can put things in perspective. It doesn't lessen your emotions. The emotions are the same, but you can step back and say, I'm not going to be controlled by that emotion, or let me put things. And I think it then helps to see things at a higher level.
What is your strategy for dealing with distractions? What is your strategy for dealing with distractions? That's a great question.
Yes, something that you've heard about. You've heard about this, but it's that thing, like, are you willing to go to where you need to go and get out your comfort zone? The number one thing that has been able to help me with distractions is two things. One of them is prayer. Just taking 2 minutes to quiet everything out and talk to God. And then the second thing, which I was like, I can't do this. I can't even believe I said that, is meditation. Meditation. If that's one thing y'all take away from today, is just go on YouTube and say 10-minute meditation, smooth music, something. Type in anything, 10-minute meditation. I got to go see my girl. She mad at me. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, type it in and just really kind of clear your mind.
Most people let the outside world affect them. So they're not coming forth with themselves. They're a reaction to somebody else's action. When you get into things like meditation a little bit or into yoga, you're more into yourself. It's so powerful. I had a partner of mine that was in bad shape. He had a heart problem. One of his kidneys was missing already, and he could not qualify for the heart transplant list. He could not qualify. He was too bad. If you're too bad, you don't qualify. If you're too good, it's like right in the middle there, right? He couldn't qualify, but he was too bad for him. His body was really deteriorated. I called a friend of mine, Dr. Dean Ornish, and Dr. Dean Ornish is a brilliant man. He has found out how to reverse heart disease, different forms of cancer, different forms of diabetes, through diet and meditation. His thing is, you must have diet, you must have meditation, and you must have exercise combined together. Within 3 months, this fellow not only got qualified for the list, but got off it at the top. That fast in 3 months. But it was diet, meditation, and of course exercise. Well, when you're into yoga, I believe it's a combination of exercise and meditation. You're like trying to be there with the one. And it's something that really works. What I do in the morning is I don't sit around for an hour meditating, but every morning I'll get up and I'll take at least 5 minutes and just be. Look around the room, the ceiling, whatever's in front of me, and just be in the present. Not think about my problems, not think about my goodness, not think about anything good or bad during the day or what I'm going to do next. Just try and be in the here and now, which is difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then I've just a small mantra that I do, and it's just one sentence, and that is, Creator of souls, thank you for the life you've given me. Help let me see the truth and share what I have and make the world better off because I'm here. Very short, very, very short. Repeat it one time, that's it, and try and be in the here and now. And I probably do that 90% of the time.
I started playing with meditation about 20 years ago. It wasn't that serious, and I think the most I actually practiced within that time frame was, probably 20, 30 minutes, and wasn't really aware of a lot of the theories and some of the focus that I needed until about 2 years ago when I went to my first Vipassana course. I went to this little town just south of Dallas and did a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And it was one of the hardest, but also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And one of the practices of Vipassana is to do one of these retreats every year, but also to carry through with your practice, you do 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening before bed. And what it's done for me is really just a sense of clarity, certainly one of focus, certainly one of recognizing when I'm reacting to something which has this, momentum of not feeling necessarily in control, but as I did it, at the end of last year, I just went even deeper into that clarity and was, instantly reminded of the year prior. And I had this experience where I just felt like I was picking up where I left off, and that was really powerful to me. So for me, every single day, it's a time to build self-awareness, and that's what it comes down to.
Now I've got some special bonus clips that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the Billionaire Mindset question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? Also, if you've already got your Billionaire Mindset Companion PDF calendar, get ready for another amazing video tomorrow. Or if you don't have it yet, you can get it for free in the first line of the description below. And if you're enjoying this Billionaire Mindset series, give me a hashtag Billionaire Mindset in the comments below so I can celebrate you. I never thought I'd do this. Meditation creates a natural environment for the body to heal itself. Michael Edwards. Michael said I needed to do healing meditation. Now, I fully believe in the benefits of meditation. I believe the science. I believe the people who tell me it works for them, but it never worked for me. I've tried following YouTube videos, guided meditation apps, and one-on-one coaching with some of the best meditation teachers in the world, but I never felt anything. I didn't feel any different coming out of a meditation than going in. I must have tried 30 to 40 different techniques from different people because I believe that it works. I just never found the method that worked for me. And yet, the thing that never worked for me was the very thing my new advisor promised would heal my broken neck. Great, I'm all in. Tell me what to do. He gave me specific music to listen to, specific visualizations to do while meditating, specific instructions on how to position myself, specific instructions on timing and frequency. He followed up with me regularly and kept sending his support, belief, and guidance. When I loaded my messages, his was the first one I went to because at this moment in my life, he was one of the most important people around me. I did the meditations because I believed in Michael. And I believed in Michael because he told his story. Again, it comes back to his story. His journey got my attention. It got me to do something that I'd never had success with. I stuck with it. I did a morning and evening meditation every day, exactly like Michael had instructed me to do. I didn't miss a single day. What was a nice-to-have luxury suddenly became a top priority because I needed to get rid of this concussion from my broken neck. Then, I started to heal. Within a couple days, I started feeling better. I still had a lot of brain fog, but I could start to think again. 1 week later, I was able to lead a workshop for an hour and a half. Another week later, I could lead my full 3-hour workshop. 2 more weeks and I stopped getting dizzy when I lay down. The broken bone in my neck also healed. Was it because of my meditation or just no more healing? I honestly don't know, but I was dedicated to my meditation because I wanted to heal like Michael had. He told his story and it impacted me. Now it's time for you to tell yours.
Holosync is a tool. It's just a meditative tool that basically entrains your brain. There's a lot of different tools that you can use. There's a lot of different types of meditations. And so some people prefer meditating without the aid of a tool. Some people prefer to use a tool. So there's a variety of different tools that people could use. And we can talk about, which ones they are, which ones work for different people and why.
So let's start with, what is your daily meditation practice?
Okay. So, for example, it's 8 o'clock in the morning here in San Diego right now. About 2 hours ago when I woke up, the first thing that I do after I pee is I go sit on my sofa looking at the ocean. And this morning, for example, I was just doing a very quiet breathing meditation, listening to sound bowls. So I bought some audios on the internet somewhere. Somebody had some really good sound bowls where they're hitting the sound bowls or rotating a little piece of wood around the sound bowl, and I just focus on releasing any of my own thoughts. I focus on concentrating and listening just to the waves that the sound bowls create. So in doing that, what actually is happening is I'm learning that I could be still. I'm learning that I could be aware of my thoughts, but then let them go, and I come back to focus on a sound wave in this particular meditation. And then what happens is, over a period of practice, you realize that your body disappears. You're no longer in this physical thing. You're no longer having these waves of thought after thought after thought after thought after thought after idea, positive, negative, and everything in between. And in that space of recognizing that I'm not my physical body, I have a physical body, I'm not my thoughts, I have thoughts, I'm not my emotions, I have them. When you start to train yourself to use your brain better, more efficiently, more productively, you realize that I am one with this, incredible universe. So what's the big deal about that? Well, the big deal is that if I am one with this universe, with this energy, with everyone and everything, and that's where everything percolates from, is it possible that all my answers are right here, right now anyway? And the answer is yeah. And so meditation is about practicing, and we know that we have different brain waves. So right now, as people are watching or listening, they're in this beta brainwave frequency where their brain is oscillating at a certain frequency, and there's 50 different brain waves going on at any given time. But what happens is when I move from beta to alpha to theta, delta, or gamma, I'm actually accessing and activating different parts of my brain, which now gives me this deeper, greater sense of awareness of a much bigger, onion that I'm used to seeing. So I'm living on a layer of an onion. And what if I could see like 10 layers up and 10 layers down? So all of a sudden it's like, wow, look at who I am, what I am, who you are, what you are. And in that realization, in that awareness, I can now start to have different choices made. And so meditation is a practice of awareness. It's a practice of going internal instead of external, which is where most people live their lives every day. We can have meditative states while we're watching a movie. We can have meditative trance-like states while we're reading a book. We can have a meditative state when we're looking into each other's eyes and we're so in love that we just lose ourselves and, oh my God, where did the time go? It's been 5 or 6 hours that we've been transfixed on each other. We can have a meditative state sitting quietly, not even breathing. Our skin is breathing. So all of these meditative states, mindfulness states, are geared towards giving us a much greater understanding and awareness of connectedness, of source that we all emanate from. And the question is, like, why would you want to do that? And the answer is, in the world that we live in right now, it is non-stop stimuli, non-stop distraction, texts, emails, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, all of the things, people like you and me looking to have our audiences come learn with us, that we can teach and share. Everybody's being distracted. Well, what we do know is, I keep this magnifying glass right here on my desk. And this is to remind me that, the sun is, a ball of nuclear fusion and energy. And it heats up a general area. And you can get a nice little tan if you stay in the sun long enough. Well, if I take a magnifying glass, I could take that same sun and I could take, this sheet of paper, right? And if I can get the magnifying glass and the sheet of paper lined up, I could burn this piece of paper by focusing the energy. Well, I could take that same energy of the sun that I can magnify through a magnifying glass, but now if I can focus it to a single photon, that's known as a laser, and I can cut through steel. Well, is it possible that yours and my brain, the most powerful electromagnetic switching station or tool in the universe that's taking light that's coming in through our eyes, sound that's coming in through our ears, is it possible that we can train ourselves to focus so intently on our vision, on our goal, on releasing what doesn't serve us, on starting what will help us achieve our goals better? Is it possible that meditation and or mindfulness allows us to focus our brain's energy on a vision and goal and outcome so intently that we are resonating and oscillating 100 trillion cells of our body because of our focus of our brain, and we are in alignment and resonance or in harmony with what it is that we want to achieve, do, be, or have? And the answer is yes, because everything in the universe is made up of energy, including my body, including, this magnifying glass, including my pen. So the very art of learning how to use my brain, the greatest organism in the known universe, it's an organism that we can manipulate and use better, now allows me, no differently than, I can take a radio or my cell phone, right? And I can turn the dial and tune into a different station. 95.1 is rock and roll. 95.5 is classical music. 95.8 is punk rock. If we learn, or when we learn, to use our brain better, more efficiently, more precisely, to tune into what it is that we want, is it possible that is using the law of attraction or resonance or harmony the way we're supposed to be using it so that we can achieve more of the goals and dreams we have? But in a diffused, fractured state, okay, we're not able to use our brains as well. So meditation gives you the ability to focus your intention and attention on the outcomes that you want versus what you don't want.
When you sit down to meditate, do you come with an intention then each time?
No, once I sit down, then I ask my intuition, hey, what is it that you want to be doing today? What is it that you need today? So we all have this intuition, which is different than our instinct. But this intuition, right, it's what we know before we think. And so when I sit down, I say, okay, hey, what's the intention for today? And sometimes the intention is to just let go and see what happens. Sometimes the intention is I'm searching for an answer. Sometimes the intention is, well, today focus. Today let go. Today, just breathe. So I just listen. It's the art and the subtle science of paying attention. And I have a philosophy that every moment, every precious nanosecond and moment is perfect. And so when I connect to the perfection of that moment, there's really nothing to do. It's to be aware and to allow, to surrender, but not to give up surrender, but to understand that, as we are talking right now, the oceans don't need any instruction what to do. The planets that are moving in their elliptical orbits around the sun don't need yours or my intervention. The universe, the Milky Way galaxy that's flowing through the universe at 1.5 million miles per hour doesn't need yours and my instruction. So that means that every moment is perfect. So I want to connect to the perfection of every single moment, be aware of that every single moment, and realize that many things are not to my taste, many things I don't understand, but that doesn't mean that the moment isn't perfect. And so then can I direct a little bit of this, physical body? Can I direct my mind? Can I manage my emotions well enough to make sure that what I do has purpose, what I do has meaning, what I do brings value, what I do brings me joy, what I do brings me happiness? And the answer is, of course. And that's where, I share a lot, in my book, Inner Size, is awareness is what gives you choice. And it's choice that gives you freedom. And so in choice, we're no longer victims. In choice, we can become victorious. And everybody who's watching wants to become victorious on their lives, right? And so what if all we had to do is pay attention, remember the perfection that you are, remember the genius that you are, remember that you can achieve whatever it is you choose to achieve. Now, let's learn the art of focus. Let's learn the art of concentration. Let's learn the art of letting go and surrendering. And Priscilla's right. All is perfect in this precious moment or present moment.
Can you share something that maybe this week came to you in a meditation that you weren't even thinking about otherwise and you acted on?
I just got back from skiing in Utah, and one of my passions is to do some skiing where I hike up and ski down these steeper terrains, which I've been petrified of doing because I've been hurt once before doing that. And so this ski run that we were just at Alta, which for the first time, I was hiking up, I was panting like a dog, going up, to 11,000 feet elevation. And at the top of the hill, I just said, okay, let me enter into a meditative state. I'm 58 years old. I've skied for 35 years. Every moment of skiing, the stuff I've done well, the stuff that that I've learned through some of the failures of skiing, I'm bringing to this moment right now. So I did a little meditation at the top of the ski hill. I just closed my eyes and I just did some breathing exercise just to connect, to myself, my emotions, the present moment, remembering that every moment is perfect, that I'm skilled enough to be able to do this, and I went. I just went, and I trusted that this moment was perfect, or I wouldn't be there. So this was my opportunity to take the lessons and to practice in this moment. And I had one of the best ski runs of my life in a meditative state, and it happened so fast. Thank God my friends were down the hill videotaping where I could actually see it. And I was like, oh my God, that's like one of my best ski runs ever. And the reason for that is I went into this calm, relaxed, responsive state versus a fearful, reactive state by going into a meditative awareness, mindfulness state of the moment. And so that was a perfect opportunity for me to go, wow, it wasn't just that moment, but it was the 50 or 35 years of skiing, that came to that moment. And so that's a meditative state where I was one with the mountain, with everything else. And it may sound esoterical, it may sound crazy, but, all we have, which everybody talks about, is this moment, this precious second right now. So the more I could be here right now, the more I'm living, the life that I want to live. I don't want to be focusing too much about the future, too much about the past. I can use those as something to, hope for in the future, as a guiding post from the past. But right now is the moment that every one of us has.
Love it. Now, I broke my neck in 2 spots last year on my tour, and one of them healed, and the other part, there's actually a piece of my neck that broke off that's still there that they don't want to operate on. Do you think through meditation? I love it. I want to know what the Frankenstein was on the other side. I like that too.
Well, that's why I want to show you. There's Einstein, which represents our left prefrontal cortex, the smart genius part of our brain that has imagination, that can come up with all the ideas of what about this, I can have this, I can have this. But what most people don't understand is we also have, a Frankenstein part of our brain, the inner critic, that says, but you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, what if you fail, what if you're embarrassed, what if you're ashamed? So we have this, that's why I have them. There's Einstein and there's Frankenstein, just to remind me and to remind my students that both exist within us. And our goal is to understand that, the way our brain works is there's always a protective side of our brain. So Frankenstein's always going, what if you fail? What if you succeed and fail? What if you disappoint yourself? And Einstein's going, don't worry about it. Imagine the future. And so there's this constant battle in our brains, going on. And our goal, and meditation is one of the best ways to recognize that both exist and both are right. Your Frankenstein part of your brain is there to protect you. Your Einstein brain is ready to help you achieve your goals and dreams. And the key is to remember, you're not your brain. You're not the Einstein part. You're not the Frankenstein part. There's another side of you that is much greater than all of it. And that's what meditation helps you remember, that I have a brain. I have the Einstein and the Frankenstein and the ugly side of myself and the nasty side of myself and the beautiful side of myself and the loving side of myself and the critical side of myself. All of that is a part of who every one of us is. And when I start to realize that and I say, okay, now I can choose. Do I focus on, Einstein and create what I want, or do I focus on Frankenstein and destruct? Which one do I want? So anyway, a little bit of fun.
I like it. So do you think I can heal my broken neck with meditation? When doctors say it's not going to connect, do you think I can manifest that connection happening with that bone that broke off?
Yes. So why do I say that? Well, we have 100 trillion cells in our body. I've had neck injuries, shoulder injuries, meniscus injuries. I've had ankle injuries. I've had injuries because I've always been pretty athletic. If you think about what is happening every time I breathe in, I'm breathing in hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, plus a whole bunch of other elements from the air. What do you think your bones and tissues and muscles are made of? I'm eating, let's say I'm eating a protein, whether it's tofu or a piece of chicken, right? I'm eating a protein that is making muscle. I'm eating fat. I'm drinking water. We are made up of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon mostly. And so every 7 years, we're making a whole new body. Our eyeballs are different. Our skeleton is different. Our brain is not the same cells that were in our brain 7 years ago. Our lungs, liver, heart, tissues, nothing is the same. And so if I am visualizing, if I am meditating, if I am seeing a new healed bone, if I'm seeing a new healed part of my being, is it possible that I can direct some of what's happening in my body? And the answer is, of course I can. There are so many people that have healed, from traumatic brain injuries, from back injuries, from tears and all that stuff. And so I absolutely believe that we can heal. So that is my opinion. And we are just starting to scratch the proverbial surface of what our potential really is, and it starts with our brain.
So what should my next step be? I've got this piece of bone floating around in my neck. I want to connect it. What should my daily practice be?
Well, the question, that I would be asking, number one, is connecting it what you want to be doing, right? Is it possible to release it and then regrow some bone deliberately? Okay. Right? So I would be looking at, first I would be doing a whole bunch of research of who has actually done what I want to do. Right? Okay. So is there one person on earth that has recovered from the type of trauma that I have? So I would look at the science first and maybe the metaphysics behind it. I would be visualizing every single day my neck healed. So I'll give you an example. Maybe I can put this into perspective for some of you. When I was 22 years old, I was diagnosed with severe ulcerative colitis, right? I think, Evan, you and I talked about this before. Yeah. And severe ulcerative colitis is when your colon is inflamed, it does this, but I had ulcers in my colon, it was bleeding, and I had zero bowel control movement. If I had to go to the bathroom, I was like, run, and sometimes I would just shit right in my pants. It doesn't make a difference who was around, where I was, in a restaurant, in bed, having sex, in my car. Made no difference. If I had to go, it was like, done. And I watched the TV show on psychoneuroimmunology, the mind-body connection. And at the time, I was 22 years old, trying to work, trying to make money, and I wanted to figure out what was causing my ulcerative colitis, because the ulcerative colitis was an effect, right? So I was like, what was causing it? And what I realized was causing it was a lot of stress, the wrong foods, too much alcohol, no exercise, etc. So I said, okay, well, how could I heal myself? And at the time, I was taking 25 pills a day. I was doing enemas in the morning, enemas at night, and going to the hospital once a month for them to stick a tube in my rectum to see what was happening in my colon. Not fun. At 22 years old, it's like, what the front door, right? And so I said, okay, let me see if I could really heal myself. And so I wrote an affirmation. I wish I had it here because I'd read it to you. It says, my body and all its organs were created by the infinite intelligence in my subconscious mind. It created all my bones, tissues, muscles, liver, lungs, heart, and everything else within me. It knows how to heal me. I am now perfectly healthy. That's a short version of that. And every day, in addition to eating well, exercising, sleeping well, I would read this affirmation. I would close my eyes. I would see my colon healed. I would see my colon sick. I'd see my colon healed. I'd see my colon sick. I'd see my colon healed. That's called mental contrasting in the world of neuroscience. And so I would see this over and 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 over in my brain. I would read it. I would feel it. I would see it. 5 weeks of doing this, after 2.5 years of being sick, all of my symptoms went away. 100%. When I went in to see my doctor, his name was Dr. Wu, he said to me, you've had a spontaneous remission. I said, it's not a spontaneous remission. It was a deliberate remission. That was 36 years ago. All right. And the doctor says, whatever you're doing, keep doing. He says, but I want you to still take the pills. I was taking 25 pills a day. I said to him, Dr. Wu, you don't understand, do you? I said, I fixed the cause. You still want to treat the symptom. Right? And so I have shown people how to get off of colitis, Crohn's disease, diverticulitis. Our body is consistently remanifesting itself based on our thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors. So what if, everyone watching, what if I could be in a vibration mentally, heart-wise, right, emotionally, and gut-wise? So heart, brain, heart, and gut. What if I can create alignment so that I am in a state of health? So my body is regenerating healthy cells. My body is regenerating, or activating energy from my mitochondria. What if I could be in this alignment with the flow of health versus a flow of dis-ease? So for you, what happens with most people is they're focusing on their dis-ease or their pain instead of channeling their attention and energy and focusing on health and well-being. So the more you say, my neck is broken, I got a little thing on my neck, it's painful on my neck, the doctors say I can't, this is impossible, the more you keep reinforcing the cellular activity that reinforces that. So there's the difference between sticking your head in the sand and pretending that the symptom isn't there, and what you focus on. So the symptom is there, but the symptom, okay, is there because of something that happened in the past. If I keep recreating what happened in the past, I just keep recreating at the cellular structure the continuity of that. We're saying, yes, what I have right now is because of the past. I accept that. And now I'm focusing on being 100% healthy. Big, big difference. Now we're not lying to ourselves, which I don't believe we should do, right? And by the way, somebody asked in here, and by the way, if you're all enjoying this, hit the like or the love button for me and Evan, so we know you're enjoying this. I want to share one critical piece here. Somebody asked earlier, can you do this for a drug addiction? A lot of people don't know this, but I used to be addicted to alcohol. I haven't had a drink in over 10 years, and I haven't had alcohol in 11 and a half out of 13 years. When I was going through a really challenging time in my life, through a business partnership breakup with one of my best friends, I would drink a bottle of wine a night. And I realized, oh my God, I am hiding my emotions. I'm getting addicted to alcohol as a way to deal with these emotions I want to suppress. And I used the exact same process to stop drinking. I've used the exact same process to stop eating sugar because I was addicted to sugar. I used the exact same process. Most of you don't know this. I wish I had a picture, but I was 243 pounds 10 years ago. I'm 195 pounds today. I've lost 43 pounds of fat. I've kept it off for 10 years. Why? Because I'm focusing on the inner game. The power within you and me is so great that when we learn how to focus our attention, when we learn some techniques to use our brain better, then we're empowered. We are able to really become everything we are meant to become, which is what every one of us wants. We want to know, am I okay? Do you love me? Do I love myself? How do I have purpose and meaning? And that's really what we all want. We want this connection, but we also want to know that our lives matter and that we're going to be okay. And I can tell everybody, you're going to be okay. Maybe you just need to tweak a little bit of what you're doing.
What brings me to a place of strength and peace is I don't believe the lies of the mind. Every thought you have is a magical lie. It's an interpretation of a perceptual experience which is radically untrue. So, for example, my perception tells me the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. My perception tells me that the ground I'm sitting on is stationary and I know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. My perception tells me that I'm looking at your body, but actually I'm not. It's a perceptual activity in myself. So a while ago, I decided not to believe my mind. And what I do is step back from the mind and watch it. And I notice that there's me watching it. And what is me watching it? It's watching the body, it's watching my thoughts, it's watching you, it's watching everything else. So stand in front of a mirror, and the mirror reflects everything, not just you, but everything else that's happening. And if you understand that the entire world is a mirror of you, filtered through the crazy mind, then you don't depend on the mind. You depend on the awareness of the mind. So when I see a situation, whatever it is, good, bad, or whatever, I ask myself, who's watching? And then I pay attention to the watcher and I stay there. And it's profoundly peaceful and joyful at all times.
How do we make that an intentional practice so that we don't have our instant reaction to freak out or stress out? Or how do we go from making it that instant reaction to an intentional practice?
Well, a lot of people say, I want to quieten my mind, and then they struggle in meditation. But trying to quieten the mind is a thought, so it's also the mind. So you can't use the mind to quieten the mind, right? All you have to do is ask yourself, what am I aware of right now? And then favor the awareness instead of the experience, because the experience is a projection of the mind, Awareness is independent. Awareness is infinite possibilities. It's limitless. It's beyond imagination. It's infinite. It's the real you that recycles as body mind. People talk about reincarnation, but reincarnation is happening every second. Every thought that you have is a reincarnated thought. Every perception that you have is actually a recycled perception. We just get bamboozled as soon as we're given a name. So, I was given a name, Deepak Chopra. Now, that is a symbol of who I am. It's not who I am. But, if you repeat somebody's name enough, you're David, you're David, you're David, then the poor kid is screwed because he thinks he's David, when in fact he's the infinite being with a name called David. So, you're not your name. Your name is a symbol of who you are. If I'm looking at a menu in a book, and all these beautiful dishes are there, I can't eat the menu, okay? So we use words as symbols. And of course, spiritual literature says, first there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God, became the Word or whatever. There's some truth in that. As soon as you use words, you create form. So if I asked you, what is this? You'd say it's a book, but actually it's a color. It's a shape. It's a form. If a baby was looking at this book, it would be squiggles, shapes, forms, and colors. No idea that this is a book and the baby is called David. No idea. It's a joyful experience because the baby would see this and everything else as itself and would fall, in fact, is in love with existence. All you have to look at is a baby. The only time it says, is when it's hungry or it's wet. Otherwise, it's in bliss. And why is it in bliss? Because it hasn't been bamboozled by constructs. I come from a tradition, by the way, wisdom traditions, where there's a thing called Mahasamadhi. Maha means big. Samadhi means the big meditation. When you choose, you say, okay, been there, done that. I had a great life. My father did that, by the way. My father was a cardiologist. Trained in England. So at the end of his life, he said, I had a great innings. He used to play cricket. He said, I had a great innings. It's over. So I'm going to say goodbye. And then he closed his eyes and, he actually went to the room where my mother was sleeping, said goodbye to her, went back to his room, sat in bed, closed his eyes, and he was gone. Now, yeah, he probably had a cardiac arrhythmia or something. There has to be something that causes the final exit, right? But as far as I'm concerned, he died in peace and in contentment and without fear. That is called Mahasamadhi. It's a tradition amongst my gurus going back thousands of years. And so, of course, they don't talk about it. They don't care what the world thinks of them. They're not on Twitter or Instagram or doing YouTube videos. They're happy. And, I get that. I get that. I'm 74 right now. My blood pressure is 110/70. My cholesterol is better than anybody who's 40 years of age. My heart rate variability says I have no stress. I enjoy every day a joyful, energetic body, love and compassion in my heart, clear mind, and lightness of being. If you have those four things, there's nothing else you want. Everything else is like crumbs, dessert, a little bit cherry on the top of the cake. The reality is joy at all times. Even if you sat down quietly, closed your eyes, observed your breath, and took an inhalation to the count of 4, pause to the count of 2, exhale to the count of 6, your breathing rate will come down from 14 to about 8 if you do that for a minute, just 1 minute. If you go a little bit beyond that, once you get comfortable with that, you increase it. So breathe in to 6, pause to breathe out 6. Your brain waves will go from beta to alpha. Alpha is a meditative state. But if you actually become good at this, I can take my brain waves down to theta, which is the dream state. And then if I want, I can actually take it down to or the breathing rate with practice, slowly but comfortably, that takes you to delta, which is deep rest, the equivalent of deep sleep. Okay, and you're still awake, of course, but you're rested, the equivalent of deep sleep for that 1 minute. So I would say take a breathing break, or just ask yourself, am I aware? And then shift from the thought to the awareness in which that thought is happening, and notice that awareness and hang in there, and you'll be fine immediately.
I love it.
Here's another thing.
Yeah.
I call it the STOP formula, STOP. S stands for stop. T, take 3 deep breaths and smile from your head to your toe, everywhere, your fingernails, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your heart, even your genitalia are smiling. And then observe your body, feel it, and then choose the response you want at that moment. Or you can even make it simpler. Press the pause button, pause, breathe, and choose.
In looking at your work over the past number of decades, you've really been at the front of helping make meditation an everyday thing. I mean, in the 80s, nobody knew about meditation, and now everybody knows what meditation is. Me personally, I think meditation has helped a lot with just mindfulness and presence. Where I struggle with it, and maybe you've got some insider guidance on this, is get into an altered state where it feels like, hey, I've been doing meditation for 2 hours, but it only feels like 5 minutes. If I sit down for an hour, I'm present, I'm mindful, I'm focused, but it still feels like an hour. Where am I on the meditation journey that I need to like make the next breakthrough?
Even if it feels like an hour, if there are moments when you lose track of time, you say, oh, where was I? You were infinite at that moment. So don't try and count the time that you left the arena or the theater of space-time and causality. The easier you are, the more spontaneous it'll be. Not in meditation. You know, when somebody is having a good time, what did they say? I lost track of time. When somebody falls in love, there's no time, right? When you fall in love with anything, even an idea, time goes. You fall in love with a person, with a baby. For that moment, when you are feeling that experience, there's no time. Okay, so that's our essential nature when we are connected with all that is. So when people say, I meditate to get away, to unplug, it's actually inaccurate. You meditate to plug. You don't meditate to get away from it all. You get in touch with it all. When solitude is not the same thing as loneliness. Loneliness comes from the fear of the ego self. Solitude is being connected to all that exists. So just make that distinction. Okay, and you'll see. And when you're listening to music, do you think, when is this going to end? Okay, you're listening to a song. Do you ask yourself, when is this song going to end? Or you're dancing, or you're watching a ballerina. Does she think, when am I going to finish? Right? No, because they are in love and they've become what they're doing. So it is never a problem to focus or concentrate, as the word is. I don't like the word concentrate. It gives me a headache just thinking about it. But it is never a problem to focus on something if you love it.
Right.
Okay. So only do the things that you love.
Can you explain the cover of this book? So this came in, and first it was beautifully wrapped. I almost didn't want to open it because it was so beautifully packaged and put together, but I had to so I can get through it for this interview. What is the symbolism here? What does this mean to you? Why did you pick this design for the cover?
This is a mural in one of our meditation halls in the Isha Yoga Center in India. This is, some people say this is the largest mural in the world. I don't know for sure, but some people claim it is the largest one. So we designed this mural to depict the 5 dimensions upon which a human being can work. When I say 5 dimensions, see, the entire physical world is made up of 5 elements in the yogic senses. water, earth, water, fire, air and space. These are the five. These 5 dimensions, only with these 5, the entire universe is made. So is your body. So the fundamental of yogic sciences is in this, which is called as Bhuta Shuddhi. That means one thing is to cleanse the elements in your system, another thing is to have mastery over these elements. If you have mastery over the elements within your system, then your body, your mind, your energies, everything functions the way you want. So you don't do anything about it because you've not taken care of the ingredients. The final cooking is a mess. So the yoga, the basis, the foundational practices of yoga are called as Bhuta Shuddhi. Well, when I say yoga in North America, well, it means something else. That's not what I'm talking about. When we say yogic sciences, the most basic of these practices are Bhuta Shuddhi. So this is a depiction of Bhuta Shuddhi, working with earth, working with water, working with air, working with fire and space. So this is working with air, this imagery of a yogi hanging upside down from a tree and working upon the air in the system. When I say air in the system, right now everybody understands, particularly with the pandemic, everybody understands how important it is to breathe properly you know. So it's not just about the breath, every cell in the body has a certain amount of air in it, invested. So generally, we see that about 70 to 72% is water, about 12% is earth, about 6 to 8% is air, the remaining part is fire and space. So this 6 to 8% of air has a significant role to play in our life. The way you think and the way you breathe are very directly connected. Today modern science also is acknowledging this, that suppose this is something that we do in the yogic system, that if you simply sit here and think about mountains, if you check your breath, it'll be one way. You think about a tiger, it'll be another way. You think about ocean, it'll be another way, because your thought and your breath are so directly connected. Well, at least this everybody knows, if their thoughts become little fearful, their breath goes into a certain state of exaggeration or aberration will happen. So, breath and thought process is very directly connected. Right now, what people call as happiness and unhappiness is essentially, in your thoughts, if what you want is happening, you're happy. In your thoughts, what you don't want is happening, you're unhappy. So in this way, for your happiness, to live happily and peacefully here, the most fundamental thing is your breath should happen in such a way, naturally your chemistry will function in such a way that your thought process will be the way you want it. This is as simple as that. If your thought and emotion happen the way you want, well, you will be joyful, there's no question about it. The life around you, the world around you may not happen the way you want always, especially right now, it doesn't happen, but your thought and your emotion is happening your way, you're joyful by your nature. So in that context, air or mastery over air in the system is very important.
If you want to sign up for the entire Billionaire Mindset series for free and get the companion bonus PDF calendar, check the link right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.